Hi, this is Melanie of Pardesi Reviews, and I'm here again with Kathy of CinemondoPodcast, and we're going to talk about the new Netflix thriller Jaane Jaan, starring Kareena Kapoor.
So good.
So this came out on Netflix, I don't know, the 21st or something like that. So finally we got around to watching it because I had heard from some other people, hey, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I was hearing that too. I'm like, really? Because I thought the trailer was good, but they had a few of those like stripper scenes in it. So I'm like, oh no, it was like kind of a red flag. But and then you find out why.
Right. Yeah, so the main stars are Kareena Kapoor, as we said, and then there's a character named Jaideep. Jaideep Ahlawat plays teacher.
I love they kept calling him teacher.
Yeah, who is her neighbor across the hall. And then Vijay Varma plays this inspector, expecting the murder of Arjit, her ex-husband, who's played by Saurabh Sachdeva. I don't know which way to pronounce it. So besides Kareena Kapoor, of course, who is very famous, the only one that was really a familiar face to me is Vijay Varma, who was in Gully Boy. And he was also in this Netflix film called Darlings, where he played this absolutely odious, abusive husband.
Yes.
And we want to tell you, but
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So he was very memorable for me from that. And he was great in Gully Boy too. But I mean, I looked up Jaideep's filmography, and I mean, he's been in Gangs of Wasseypur, and he's had evidently supporting roles in a lot of things. And I'm like, okay, but he didn't stick out to me, right? Like,
not like this.
Not like this.
He definitely stuck out in this.
So, and this is not a completely original work. It's an adaptation by Sujoy Ghosh of a Japanese novel called The Devotion of Suspect X.
That's interesting. It had a very Japanese flair to me. The whole setup, everything about it.
What way? What do you mean?
I think it was the way they had like these little villages and then the little like tea shop kind of area. It felt like Japan, like the way he'd walk down the street and he'd go in. It just had the vibe of it, like the neighbor and the thin walls, you know, like I know that seems kind of like across the board, but when I was looking at the title, I kept seeing Japan, and then when I'm watching it, I still kind of felt Japan in it. I don't know why. I didn't even know it was Japan, but that's interesting. That makes kind of sense to me for some. It's just some vibe. I don't know.
Yeah. So I mean, this is the director who did Kahani, which is one of my favorite Hindi thriller films. Also very woman focused. So this review of this discussion is going to be completely full of spoilers. So if you have not seen this and you don't want to be spoiled on the mystery of the plot, then go watch it and then come back.
Because you can't talk about this, and the movie relies on the twists and turns, and honestly, don't ruin it for yourself. The fun is in the surprises.
Exactly, because the fun is trying to guess, is this character as smart as I think they are? Is the inspector going to figure this part out? Like, you know, who is playing, you know, both, you know, so you just really are guessing almost until like the last frame. I felt like I was in good hands with the writers and the adapters or whatever, because I was just like, I literally, like, any twist could happen almost by the end, right? I was like, so so the evidently Netflix was kind of going back and forth. Jaane Jaan means beloved. It's also a name of a song that Kareena at one point sings in a karaoke bar, which is part of the plot. Then so sometimes Netflix was calling it Suspect X, and now when you get to the very end of the film, you understand why, but also now it makes sense because that was the name of the part of the novel title. But what did you think about this thriller? Because I know you like horror, but thrillers is kind of I was pleasantly surprised. What did you think?
Well, the thing that's great about it grabs you right away. Like, it does not waste any time. Like, you instantly get the setup. You get like the scary husband who comes back almost instantly. He is fantastic. Oh my God.
He was.
Like, you could see why she would find him attractive. He's a bad boy. He's very handsome. He's, you know, kind of rough and tumble looking, but oh my God, terrifying person. So you get that. And then I love the shy kind of nerd who had the crush on her. Like this dynamic that happens almost right away in this movie. I just loved it. So anything that has to do with the kind of stalker from afar, the how do we as just total amateurs cover up a crime, especially something terrible like murder, and then trusting people you don't really know because you're in the middle of this. Everything about it was like, are they going to pull it off? So
I
it was
know.
very solid, very, very solid.
I just the writing was very,
So
very
good.
solid. And like you
Mhm.
say, showing us the stripper pole in the
Yeah.
trailer kind of put both you and I off a little bit,
Yeah.
like, oh God. Like, and I was like, really?
I know.
And then but then the way it was
Yeah.
incorporated in was very clever. And it was
Right.
like, okay, like I
Mhm.
really it was valid to be in there.
Yes.
So we didn't mention Kareena Kapoor is playing a single mother of a 13-year-old girl.
Mhm.
And we learn, like you say, we learn the setup right away
Mhm.
that this neighbor is very shy and there's a hole in the wall or whatever that he can hear everything that they're saying in their apartment, which they have no
Creepy.
idea.
Yeah.
Okay. So right away you're sort of like, is is he, like you say, he's set up as this creepy stalker, and so you're suspecting him from the beginning. You're like,
Yes.
something is going to happen with
Yeah.
him. He's going to do something.
Yeah.
It could have been anything, right? Like
Yeah.
you were just like, he could have kidnapped the daughter, he could have kidnapped the mom, like anything
Yeah.
could have happened. And then, like you said, the bad boy ex-husband comes in, and you can immediately see the fear on Kareena
Oh.
Kapoor's, and like she's trying to be strong in front of her daughter, keep her
Mhm.
daughter shielded from
Yeah.
this ex-husband, and you can tell that this is a dynamic that's happened over years.
Yes.
That she's given him money to go away, then she's been on the run again,
Yeah.
whatever. And we learn that he's a cop, a corrupt
Mhm.
cop,
Yeah.
and then we learned the backstory. The whole stripper pole thing was that somehow, like, he married her, but then sold her to the strip club. I mean, like,
Yeah,
it's
like
really
forces her into it. Like
like
and
if we weren't creeped out about him enough, we're like, say what
you did. What do you do? And I like too, they didn't overdo the stripper part. Like every time they show a stripper scene in any kind of movie or TV series, you're like, oh, please. It just seems
now? Yeah,
so ridiculous. But in this, they didn't overdo it. They
no,
showed just enough so you got the point, a little bit of that. It was basically only in flashbacks, and then you were done. Didn't need to see a ton. So they
right,
actually, considering how much of that they showed in the trailer versus how much of
right,
basically
right,
that's what's in the movie. So I was relieved to find out, like, not only was she with an abusive person, he subjected her basically to human slavery, like
right,
forcing her to do
yeah,
that. So yeah, not good. And what voice does she have? She's married to a cop. And
yeah,
so that made it
yeah,
feel impossible. Like
right,
they even that setup was so great because she has like the abusive husband. He's a cop. No one will listen to her. He's the father of her child. He kind of has a right to see her. Like there's this weird, like
right,
she can't get rid of him. She can't. And then I love when he even comes into the restaurant
yeah,
and she's just like trying to be cool, but the tension. And then the the owner of the restaurant I worked with, he was all like, What's wrong? What do you mean? And she's just like, get him out of
yeah.
here.
And
Oh my God.
she's like, who was that handsome guy that was
Oh, he
talking to
looks so
you?
he
He's
looks good.
so
Oh my God. It's like
And
terrifying.
I mean, that's
Mm,
the thing of Kareena Kapoor is such a good actress that she
yeah.
shows all of that. Like we can see it all on her face before she
Yep.
even says a word. We can see all of that, you
Yes.
know.
Yeah, and you
And I
see her as a
love that.
strong woman
Right,
who's afraid because, she's been very capable and she has protected her child and she keeps going on the run. She's doing all the right things and he still keeps finding her. So I love seeing
right,
a woman who's kind of in charge and doing her thing. And he comes in and she's afraid, but she doesn't look helpless. It's not like that
right,
helpless, whiny, sniveling kind of fear. It's like this, like, oh, I got to deal with this again. Oh no, what do I have
right,
to do? Like
right.
you see the wheels turning, It's so good.
Right. And then her breaking point is that then he's threatening to do the same to their 13-year-old daughter.
Yep.
And it's like, so what now? Like,
Done.
and
Last drop.
that is it. Like, and so this scuffle happens again. Like, I loved how they set it up because
Yeah.
I've never heard of an immersion heater. Like, that's not something in
No.
America. We're told don't put anything in water, or you're going to die of an electric
Exactly.
shock,
It's
right?
electric and it's in water. Take it out.
And so when one of the opening shots is typical 13-year-old daughter, mother dynamics is we're running late for school. You
Yep.
left your breakfast dishes out. Oh, you left the heater on. And I'm like, what now? And she's pulling this thing out of a bucket. And I'm like, okay, but they set us up from the beginning. And that was great how they set us up with this appliance for an international audience that would have never known what this thing is. So
that's right.
It had this hard metal part and a very strong cord.
It's funny too, because I think, you know, they always say if you show a gun in the first act, you better show it in the third act. It was the same with this. Like I saw them like, why are they showing this? I mean, it's going to come into place. I thought someone was going to be electrocuted.
Right.
I didn't know.
But when he is attacking, the daughter comes after him and hits him on the head with it. And then Kareena in the scuffle grabs it and chokes him. And the fact that they do it together, that the 13-year-old daughter is holding his hands down. Oh my God. Like I wasn't ready for that scene and how intense that was, right?
So hardcore. And the way she's pulling on the cord, almost blacking out from fear and terror and anger. She's just pulling on it and just sort of not thinking, like just pure, you know, emotional animal instinct. And all of a sudden she's like, Mom. And also she realized what she's done. Like, oh crap. Oh, this isn't good. And they basically just wanted to incapacitate him. They didn't intend necessarily to murder him, but he was bad news.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely set it up in a short amount of time that we're all like, who's going to kill this guy? Because I'm coming for the screen and I'm going to do it for you.
This guy needs to go down. I know, exactly. No one was feeling sorry for this guy. Not for 1 second.
Not one single second.
That's so good.
And when,
now what do you do?
Right. Now what do you do? Because then they're realizing they can't carry the body. What are they going to do with this body? What are they going to do? And then again, like you say, it's in some sort of a small town where everybody knows everybody.
Yeah. Walls are thin.
And well, she doesn't even know about that.
She doesn't know about thin walls yet.
She doesn't even know yet. But teacher next door has overheard everything. I think he's the one that knocks on the door, right? And
he does.
Kind of trying to hide the body, but like,
I think did he call her first because it was kind of like, huh? He goes, hey, so what are you gonna do now? And she's like, who is this? Like, what are you gonna do? She's like, how do you know? What? And then click, knock. Guess who?
It was creepy neighbor. It was really bizarre. It was really bizarre.
Oh my God.
But then teacher takes over this whole thing and he's like, I will handle this.
Listen to me, do everything I say. We can handle this. And he's like, I'm a mathematician. I'm a genius. I put puzzles together, basically. This is what I do. And I like too, like he was sort of creepy. I mean, they were playing into it. Like his hair was looked really bad. And he was always kind of staring without blinking and being real creepy. But they had a few scenes of him at his school that were kind of cute where he plays the trick with the coin with the students, you know, and he's like the mathematician, you know, the math teacher. And so he wasn't like that, you know, cookie cutter creepy dude. Like he had moments of human. So when you see him come in to kind of take over, you're like, I guess I trust him. I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, she's ready to call the cops, but then she realizes her daughter has been a part of this, right? Her daughter because the teacher notices that there's scratch marks on the body's hands. Yeah. And that shows that there was a struggle. And so there's going to be DNA from her daughter. You know, that her daughter was involved. And again, can you trust a 13-year-old not to break down with Indian cops questioning her? Right? So she really is. If the daughter had not been a part of the equation, you would get the feeling maybe Kareena would have just called the cops and been like, what, you know, whatever. What happened, and she would have dealt with it. But she has to save her daughter, and also she realizes, okay, now the father is dead. If I'm put in jail, who's going to take over my daughter? Where's my daughter going to go? Right? I mean, there's so many layers of her terror of like, oh crap, what now? Right?
It seems impossible. And this is always when you see my favorite part of movies is where someone has done something like this, killed someone, whether it's out of anger or for a reason or whatever. And then there's the turning point. Do you call the cops or do you cover it up? That's when the crime happens. When you cover it up, right? It's like that's when you start looking like a murderer. Because technically this was self-defense.
Right.
He came into her house. He was in her house. I'm sure he has disciplinary notices in his cop, you know, folder. I would assume. Who knows? He's corrupt, obviously. Who knows? But he's not a good guy. There has to be people who know he's not a good guy. And he just gone to even with the daughter, it could have been like she was worried for me. She was trying to help. It's but you're in a panic. Like you said, you don't want to blame the daughter. So in a way, you almost think, well, this guy's saying he'll make it go away. So maybe we should just listen to him. It's like they do.
I mean, yeah, because they're just like in this panic mode, like they don't, and he's sounding so calm and self-assured, and like,
I got this.
We can fix this. We can.
I've cleaned up 1 million murders.
And so this is where it's almost like an Agatha Christie movie or whatever. So like it just like all the little details where you really do have a smart cop. You don't. I mean, so many of these, you have a stupid cop.
Yeah.
Who is not wise to what's going on. But here we actually have, I don't even remember why he was looking for the guy in the first place. Was a connection to a drug case or something? There was some reason why he was sent from Mumbai to look for this Arjun guy. I don't even remember why. And but we learned that he was a college friend of teacher. Like we learned
that's his name.
We learned teacher does have a real name. I think it was like Naren or something like that. But it doesn't matter because Kareena Kapoor's character till the very end of the movie doesn't call him anything.
Everyone calls him teacher. The students, the people in the restaurant, like he's just teacher. I kind of want to think about that's kind of a cool name. I'd name my dog that.
But so we have a worthy opponent, right? Because we have somebody who's nearly as smart as teacher.
Yes.
He's the one that really tells us, oh, teacher is genius level. Teacher does this. Teacher, when we were in college, he aced the exam and, he did all of these things, right? And also we have him coming in to teacher's apartment and kind of seeing teacher loves to, I mean, there's these eternal quests. There's these certain mathematical problems that literally geniuses spend years working on.
Yeah. I love that.
And I love that part of it too, right? Like that, that's his hobby. That's what he loves to do. Yeah. He has to earn a living teaching these kids, but really he has file folders full of these, impossible equations that he's trying to solve.
Right.
And we learn like at the very beginning, we see him waking up from having an image of almost committing suicide, of hanging himself. And we learn the reason why is because he solved something and then finds out that he spent like years, I don't know, it was 10 years, like
a long time.
And that somebody else solved it and published it 2 days before. So like he feels like his whole life is over. Like,
his whole purpose is gone.
So this whole murder thing for him, it's like a puzzle for him.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, right now, Kareena is the only suspect. She's the one that has the connection to this guy. So how can we change that up? And I loved all the details. They were epic.
So good. And I like when they backtrack, like they're going through the thing and they start setting her alibi in motion. You're like, how did they do it? And I love and not even to get ahead of us at this point, but I love how they do all this. And then they tell you at the end how it was all set up time frame wise. It was so smart. Like,
yes.
You always think I've seen a million of these things and I'm always amazed when I don't see it coming. Like, oh, of course.
Right. Well, especially this one had twists till the very end.
Yes. Very end. Yes.
That I was like,
so insane. So insane.
Because they literally were genius. They were literally genius ways that he set up the alibis for Kareena and her daughter.
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
it's what he does.
I was like, they're going to catch her because literally one of her stories is, well, yeah, my daughter and I went to this karaoke bar.
Yeah.
So I love how the detective is like, he's suspicious of Kareena, yet he's also so attracted to her. Yeah. I love that little twist.
They had great chemistry. I mean, they had I love these two creepy guys are in her orbit right now. So it's like, oh God, it's just to be surrounded by these terrible people. And then he comes in and he's super handsome, charismatic. You feel the chemistry. You're like, that's the guy you need to be with. That guy, except you're a murderer. But other than that, technically, but it's like they had such a great chemistry. I love their whole scene. The karaoke bar was so good. It was a little too good for some people.
Yeah.
Too good.
I mean, he's like trying to trip her up. He's trying to catch her. And so he takes her to the karaoke bar, gets her to enter the contest and sing the song, which is, why we get the title and
So
everything.
good. Yeah.
So in one way, he's like supporting, lifting her up, and then she realizes, oh man, he sent the detective to get something from my house when my daughter was home alone because I'm at the karaoke bar with the guy.
I know, and I'm falling for it too. I'm like, look, they're getting along. They should be together.
Yeah.
He's romancing her, and then no, he's just doing cop shit. I like to his kind of taunting teacher also by saying, "Oh, she's really hot." Like no one is going to bother him because they kept saying how like, yeah, teacher comes in every day, and he's like, "Oh, does he? Interesting. Let me try to offend him with how I talk really disrespectfully about this woman he's in love with." So I kept being really crude about it. It's like, oh man, but then at the same time, I'm like, you guys should be together. I'm such a sucker. I would fall for it. A cop would get me instantly.
I mean, she's just trying, but I also love like you said, she is a strong woman. So at one point, I think she had to be somewhere to pick up her daughter, or she had to be at work or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, I need to talk to you. I need to ask you questions." So they go to this restaurant, and she and Nepalese orders the ghost pepper sauce for the dumplings. Oh man.
So I know he didn't understand the language. He's like, or she thought he didn't.
Okay, so that was so funny because literally last night we had dinner out with friends at their house, and they had ghost pepper hot sauce. And
you had to try it.
No, there's no way that I was going to try it. We knew it was really bad, but one guy had it, and he's like, "Oh, it's not too bad." And then there was this college age kid, and he's like, "Oh, if he said it wasn't so bad," so he pours it on his burrito. He practically died.
It's no joke, man. The ghost pepper chips at Trader Joe's are just barely eatable. I should say edible. Eatable.
I mean, we had to like give him chocolate milk for him to be able
seriously.
To go. It was bad, and so I just loved how the cop was trying to, like, eyes watering or whatever, but trying to be so like, oh, I can't show it in front of her.
It made him even cuter. Like he's like, I love it's like it's not like the cartoon, like he was trying to, like you said, keep it together. I love that modulating of the performance. Like he's like, "Oh, it's good," and then, like I said, his eyes are kind of watering. He's trying to be cool about it.
And then he's looking at it. Do I dip into it again? Because if I don't, she's gonna know.
He goes, "I have to be manly and eat this." Oh god. So funny.
She's just sitting there.
She's like, "How is it?"
And then
is it good?
He sort of respects her instead of being like blowing up and mad.
He's like,
respects her for doing that to him. He's like,
"Yeah,
you got me."
Yeah, that was good. All right, I know exactly. We're on equal footing here. So good.
So getting to the end, all the reveal. I agree with you. Where I was just like, whoa.
I thought there was a little bit of a whatever. Like, see now, after watching so many crime shows, so many hard things, when there's a body where it's unrecognizable, no hands or feet, or the face is obliterated,
right?
Suspect. And so I wondered, but I couldn't figure out how they could make him unidentifiable. I thought it was unidentifiable, so they couldn't recognize the victim, but they knew who it was right away. So like, well, that didn't work. That's weird. But it was in my head.
Right.
That whole
thing.
It
was this thing like, how could it be so smart and yet so stupid to leave the ID half burnt?
Yeah. And like right off the road, like it was half-assed. And you're like, he's not all the smart guy he thinks he is. Like, and all of a sudden, I like too, halfway kind of toward the end, she's kind of like, who is this guy? Why am I listening to him? Like, and you're kind of, and he's sort of, just do what I say. Like, it's sort of, things are starting to kind of go awry a little bit. And I love how, as anyone would, I don't even know this guy, and I'm letting him hold my life in his hands. I'm letting him cover up a murder for me. For what reason? And do I trust him? Like, I love
what is he going to
start doubting it.
What is he going to expect from me?
Yeah, what's his deal? Like, it was great. It was great. Like that whole, like, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it, because she's like all of a sudden kind of having full doubt, and you're like, oh no, she's going to blow it because now she doesn't trust him, and also he doesn't seem all that good at it because he's kind of fumbling, with the body and everything. You're like, what's happening? It's so weird.
So then the final reveal that I love how you did it on the chalkboard like it was an equation, and he's like, okay, if Kareena's not the suspect, then I have to be.
Right.
And he kind of knows how to make himself even more creepy, right?
Yeah.
Like he purposely leans into okay, I'm the crazy stalker
I'm gonna be the
neighbor.
creepy guy. Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to send some crazy notes. I'm going
Yeah.
to, like, I mean, he purposely set it up even
Love it.
more.
Yep.
Oh,
It
it was
was
awesome.
so well done.
And it's like in his head, he was like, okay, I'm really going to show my love by doing this.
Yep.
And actually, he didn't mind so much being at the end, being in a cell with
Oh, no, he's in
walls that he
heaven.
could write on in chalk.
Yep.
And he didn't have to spend his waking hours teaching these little annoying children. He could just work on
That's right.
these equations all day and be fed and whatever.
Yep.
You
You know, it's
know?
interesting because I thought the one little twist that was missing, and maybe I missed it, but there were a couple things. One is I love how he says, I want to talk to the cops, and you think he's going to confess, and he says, she did it. And you're like, what? And then, of course, because he seems like a nutcase, they bring her in, and he just makes himself look more guilty. Like he's trying to,
Right.
he tells them everything that we did, she did this, she did that, but all the evidence pointing him, so he's just
Right.
trying to like confuse them. But then at the end, I'm trying to think, okay, he always told her they will never find him. And they
Right.
didn't. So
Right.
he didn't actually murder the person he's being accused of. He murdered, well, you assume he murdered some guy, the
Some
transient or whoever the
homeless
guy was.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's not even up for murder for murdering the cop. No one is. Like they got away with it technically. He's
Right.
basically just
Right.
being convicted for the murder of this homeless guy, which is
Yeah.
like kind of. And so I kept thinking, is he going to come back? Where now the husband's going to appear? Because they still don't know what happened to the husband at the end of that movie.
Right. I mean, this is
Which I
set
like, the
in.
loose
I
end.
mean, the movie is set in West Bengal. I mean, it's some sort of like hilly mountain area,
Yeah.
like literally. And because he set it up where the cop ex-husband dies on the 9th,
Right.
and then when they kept talking about, the forensic expert is, who does the autopsy, is like, well, this body, it was the murder was at the 10th. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Right? Like all through, I'm like, what? Are they just not that good that they couldn't figure it out? That
Yeah.
they're just saying, well, then this is when the body was burned and whatever.
Yeah, it was interesting.
And it's like, then you realize he did that whole thing. He had to murder someone, which she has no idea. Had to murder someone else so that she sets up the alibi that literally all the time of death that she and her daughter are on all these public places. They're at a movie, they're at a restaurant, they're at a karaoke bar. At no point are they home during that whole time in the evening, so that they couldn't have been suspects. And that's why the cop keeps trying to invalidate any of those alibis.
Right.
And then the cop is just like, there's no way that they could have gotten home and dealt with this and come back. Like, there's no way.
Not gonna do it. The guilty as she looks. This is not gonna happen. I like too how when he's trying to figure out, he puts himself in the scene. I always like it when they do that, where he's standing in the scene, you see her kill him, and he's just sort of standing there going, trying to work out his head how it physically was possible. I thought that was a cool idea. They're just standing there while everything's happening. That was a cool thought too.
And there's just a lot of cool touches to this film, a lot of cool details. And I love this Satisfactory where you're like, wow, you really got me. I didn't figure it out. You surprised me at the end. I love that.
Didn't see the bait and switch on the body, and I think because the ID, we kind of fell for it too. Even though DNA would pretty much disprove who that was pretty quickly, it was still like a nice little trick. Because the person that was murdered was there to be the bait because the ID was there. So somewhere
they tripped it up with he even thought of the DNA, remember? Because he had the homeless guy sleep in the hotel room and use the comb and use all the stuff.
Oh yeah.
So that when the cop comes in and is like, oh, I've got the DNA evidence here.
They think
for the
that's
body.
the DNA. You're right.
He's got it from the comb. And it was the homeless guy. So it matched.
Even though technically the cop probably has his DNA on file somewhere and it wouldn't match. But it was still a cool idea.
But why go to Mumbai and get it when it's in his hotel room, right?
We don't need it. Here it is. That's
Here
right.
it is. Oh,
it was really smart.
That was super smart.
Eventually, it might catch up with him, but they still don't have the body. We still don't know where the body is. We have no idea, really. I don't think I know what he
Right.
did with
I
it.
mean, it's somewhere further in the wilderness or down a well or
Yeah.
who knows, right? So, like,
Exactly. Who knows what a poor man
I
who is
mean,
not a poor man.
teacher has lived in this area obviously for a very
Yes.
long time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like how
So,
they established that. Like, of course he would know where to put a body. He's lived there his whole life. So good. Very slick, but the this movie is super slick, very high end. You know, it looks very modern, like beautiful
yeah.
cinematography, some cool camera tricks, lots of fun little twists and turns, and like fake outs, and just
Yeah.
really really fun. Like I watched it. I'm telling my mom, you gotta watch this. This is so good. She's like,
Right.
what are all these creepy men? I'm like, just wait. There's a cute one that comes in later. You'll be fine. Don't worry.
I would say, yeah, I would say this is an Indian film that definitely you could recommend to anyone,
Yeah,
because
very easy.
it's not any kind of typical Bollywood fare.
Yeah.
The only song is there's a purpose for it for
Yeah, it's a
being there
karaoke
because
song.
they're at a karaoke bar. So
Right.
you don't need to know the history of that song for it, for it to be a good scene. Now the posters are just I would call them pedestrian, I guess. Like, I mean, these are just
Oh yeah,
Netflix, I mean,
very
I don't think that
commercial.
there's anything. I mean, first it's showing the setting that they're in hill country, they're in the mountain area.
A few things I
Showing,
would have done differently is I would have lowered the skyline because it's just like puts them so dark. Like they should have more silhouette value. More sky
mm,
would be good. And the daughter looks super stripped in, and she's even a little bit at a weird angle. Like the whole thing
that is
doesn't
true.
quite work. But that they're working with nothing. They're probably working with that. These
Yeah.
are from the movie, so it's a unit shot or something. But
And then they've got the title has the splotches of blood.
yeah,
So even though the title means beloved, they're letting you know this is a thriller, right?
there's blood. It's
There's
scary.
blood. There's blood.
There's blood, and look at her expression. You have to watch this.
Yeah, she's watching you. She's gonna know.
This looks good. You better watch it. Okay.
I mean,
Oh yeah, here
and
we go.
this is just kind of showing us the other stars of the film, and of course, Kareena is right there in the center because
Yeah,
she is
and
the
she's
entire.
she's the whole movie, and
She
she's
is the
so
whole
great.
movie.
These performances were so spot on, and
Yeah,
it's they have this is all unit shots. They're working with the unit, so the diagonals feel. They always give an action feel to something like it
yeah,
doesn't just look just horizontal calming. They give it kind of horizontals is scary, and then great unit shots that everybody looking kind of like something's off. Like everybody has a great
right.
expression. They're really good
Yeah,
shots of everybody.
but yeah, I mean, these are not. Again, it's something that's just on Netflix, so it's not like these are theater posters that you would have seen around town or
No,
whatever. So it's just something that you would see when
yeah,
you're looking at the movie on Netflix, and it
right.
just gives you an idea who's in this movie, what's the
That's
vibe
right.
of the movie,
They
right?
try a few star cells. They sell her on one, and they also they have to be able to read it small. Whenever we see these posters for digital, they have to read so you can see it on your phone. So that's why
Right.
a lot of these posters are super simple with just big heads in them. And then they're
Yeah.
like, okay, we'll show all the cast and we'll show just her, and that's really all people care about.
Right. Well,
There you go.
essentially, right. I mean, what
Yeah,
did I need to know about this movie if I hadn't even have seen the trailer? I would have been like, "Oh, Kareena has a new movie. Oh, it looks like it's some kind of thriller because there's
yeah,
blood on you, right?" And that's all I
yeah.
would need to know. That's all you
That's
need
right.
to know because it's Kareena. Like,
Yeah.
so,
I know. And if you didn't know who she was, you're like, oh, a woman looks scared. There's blood in the tile. Looks like a fun thriller. Let me watch it. And that's exactly why you should. It just, regardless of what you know or don't know, it's a fun thriller. You should watch it. But you should have already watched it because we spoiled the entire thing.
because we spoiled every single
Hopefully
detail.
you didn't watch this until after you watched it because otherwise it's ruined.
Anyway, thanks, Kathy, for joining me a discussion. I'm glad we both watched this because
Yeah.
Kathy Gibson, our my friend on Twitter who reviews Indian films on her accessbollywood.net, and I trust her opinion. And I thought the trailer was a little sketchy, but then she watched it. I'm like, okay, if Kathy liked it,
That's
okay.
right.
It
I know when
deserves
you
to
said they
watch.
said it's good, let's watch it. I'm like, okay, I'm watching it. And it was good. I'm glad I watched it.
I'm glad too. All right, obviously, check out Kathy's channel, CinemondoPodcast. We do collaborations both here and on her channel, so look for us there as well. And also Kathy's on reviews and the trailer reactions or whatever. And then you can find me all the usual places. X, Twitter, Pardesi Reviews
Oh
is on
God, so many.
Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky.
You're so dedicated. I don't even know where I am anymore.
Anyway, thanks again, Kathy. Bye.
Yeah.